Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Sean Cole, and I'm here with Darren Ganji.
How you doing?
And today we're here with yet another sim rig review. And today it's the Viper Technologies 600 SR.
Yeah, you're probably wondering where it was from this shot, but here it is right here below us. And we're adding another sim rig to our ever-growing list at InsideSimRacing.tv. And if you haven't checked it out, go there, and we have a tab that goes right to the sim rigs, and this is going to be in there along with all the other, I think this is coming up on 20 now.
A lot of rigs.
So this one's up next.
And we've actually had this one in the studio for a couple of weeks now, and it is a little unique in its design. It comes with an integrated sound system. It also comes with a shaker, or as we know them, butt kicker or transducers, and that's all integrated into one piece here.
Yeah, and when I first saw the price of this rig and what it had, I thought, no way. And I'm thinking, no way is that sound system any good, but we're here to tell you if it is or not.
Yet to be determined.
Yep. So why don't we go over the specs on the Viper 600R.
All right.
SR.
SR, 600 SR. Well, first of all, it is made of aircraft-grade aluminum tubing, which explains it's very lightweight. As I mentioned, it comes with 4 speakers and the seat with the built-in vibration modules and subwoofer.
Also comes with the owner's manual you see here, a power adapter with a 15-foot long power cable, audio cable that's 15 feet long, mini jack to RCA adapter, 4 adjustment knobs, 2 wrenches for assembly, and 8 strips of industrial strength Velcro, and all the nuts and bolts you see here to assemble this rig.
In addition to that, they have a few things mentioned on their website, like the aircraft-grade aluminum. We'll find out if all this is true. Over 75 watts of crystal clear sound, comfortable memory foam style cushions. It assembles in minutes, supposedly, and it's adjustable to fit anyone over 40 inches tall, and it comes in a relatively small, lightweight box when shipped. And speaking of shipping, it's $45 flat rate to anywhere in the US except Hawaii and Alaska. And the other nice thing is, outside of the US, they'll pretty much ship anywhere. Just contact them and work it out with them directly.
Yep, and now that you know what they're telling you about this rig, we're gonna show you a little assembly video on how it went together and if it took minutes. I mean, we're gonna speed it up a little bit, obviously, like we usually do. But, and then when we come back, we'll tell you a little bit more about it. So there you can see, it's not too hard to assemble within minutes, I would say. It wasn't too tough. Also, the owner's manual was a big help. It had all the steps and how to do it, so just followed that. Biggest thing was just making sure that the wires were mounted correctly. We had to just kind of string them through that, but you know, they come ready to go for, you know, for the speakers.
Sure, it wasn't that tough at all.
Nope.
So now let's talk about some of the adjustability. They mention it works with anyone over 40 inches tall, and well, I myself am 65 inches tall, 5'5", and they made these extender tubes for someone like Darren, who's 76 inches tall.
Which was definitely an afterthought. These are, I mean, as you can see, these were painted by these guys. They told us this is like the first prototype, so they're supposed to get better. Tell you more about what's going to get better on this rig in the future too, but yeah, these were the extender tubes that came.
And the important thing to note is, even at my height, I needed these, or I preferred them. I actually could fit into the rig without them, but ultimately I liked about that much on it, whereas Darren is probably stretched out to about that much.
So now, anyone over 40 inches tall, Is that what it says? Yeah, 81
Yeah.
over 40 inches tall.
Yeah.
Now, I'm 75 inches tall. Anybody much taller than me is not going to be able to use this rig. It fit me. I was able to use it only with the Logitech wheel. We could not fit in this thing with the T500. The wheel just sits too close to you, and the seat wasn't adjustable enough. Which leads us to the 75 watt crystal clear sound system, which is what they call it. Now, I don't know about crystal clear, but this thing's pretty good.
Yeah, I actually like the way they look, even though they're kind of small. But
you know what they look like? Turbines.
They do, and it makes it look like a hovercraft all in all. But they're amazingly powerful. I was very surprised overall.
And it has full adjustability, front and rear, and you can turn on the shakers from the control panel, which is like an amp, because we were drawing it straight from the PC, and this thing is self-amplified.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned or saw that it adjusted the shakers with one set of speakers in particular. Is that true?
Yeah, the shaker and the woofer was connected to the front speakers, and the rear just was connected to these.
Right. Okay. So now we're kind of talking about woofers and shakers. The shakers themselves are in the back seat back, and then the woofer is actually in the seat bottom, and that's all in their memory foam that's supposed to be very soft. Well, I found it be kind of actually hard, and I'm not sure if it's because of the woofer and shakers or if it's just kind of hard memory foam.
Yeah, you know what? And it's actually, the bottom is harder than the back. The back has got some pretty good padding. And when I first pushed down on it, I thought this was going to be pretty stiff, but sitting in it wasn't as bad as we thought.
Yeah, I actually thought it was going to be a little bit worse than it was, and I could actually sit in it for a couple hours pretty comfortably, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's definitely stiff though. This cushion is probably stiffer than any we've tried, but I talked to the guys at Viper, and they said, you know, we housed that woofer in there, so it had to, you know, be stiff to a certain extent, but not too bad.
And I think the other thing to mention is that it is a fixed angle, the seat itself. So
comes pre-drilled for the G25 and the G27. Does not come with a shifter mount though. Which is kind of odd, I guess. But so yeah, if you're running a G25, G27, you either run without the shifter module, which takes away buttons and the whole D-pad functionality and the shifter, or you just run it on the side, or you know, figure something else out. And as we mentioned, we tried the T500. We don't have any footage of it. We weren't running it when we had it set up. It's not worth seeing because honestly, I look like a fool driving because the wheel's like right here. But it's just not made for a T500. I did see some footage or pictures of it on the website with the original Xbox 360 wheel. So that might work on it just fine. Clamped fine. The T500 actually clamped to that thing fine. If we could move the seat back or move the wheel deck further that way, it would have worked fine.
Right.
But otherwise, Logitech only.
Definitely. Another thing to mention about the rig, if you haven't noticed already, it is a center post design, so that brings in certain elements or makes it a certain type of rig. Another thing you might notice right off the bat is this is really, really low to the ground. So we have it almost out of sight here in front of us, kind of like a Bob Earl even.
I'd say second to Bob Earl as far as being low to the ground. Let's talk a little bit about adjustability. You can move the wheel deck up and down. You can stretch the chassis both right here at the seat and at the foot deck a little bit based on the length of the tubes. And that's pretty much it. There's no other adjustability. The monitor stand you can adjust up and down, but that's it.
Okay. And with this type of design, you'd expect it a little bit, but quite a bit of wobble here on the center post.
Well, you know what? It's actually, when we put the monitor on, that wobble looks like it's a lot worse than it is. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but it's not that bad without the monitor. Running it with on our big rig over there, sorry for pointing in your face there, Sean, but running it on our big rig over there, it's not as bad. But on this...
Yeah, I agree with you there. But unfortunately, so do the pedals, so I'm going to do it with my foot. But the whole pedal plate kind of moves, and that's with hard-mounted pedals, and that's with standard Logitech springs as well. The other thing is right here in this, well, we don't have them mounted here, but with the extenders or without, you actually get some flex here in the middle of the rig. It kind of just does this bowing thing where you press on the pedals and the seat pressure, and it just kind of raises in the middle a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's due to the design. Back to the monitor stand. Actually pretty cool the way it attaches. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. We got a 24-inch just a PC LCD monitor attached to it, and it worked fine. But man, that thing just does not stop wobbling. We could just let it sit here and it'll wobble for the rest of this piece till we go to commercial. And you know what? My problem with that is, I've noticed that unless I'm running in a really solid rig, it'll stop me from driving as hard as I would in a solid rig. And the reason why for that in this case is I was driving at Zandvoort in the Skippy, and under hard braking, I think it's like turn 3 or 4, there's a left-hander. Coming out of the left-hander, I was like getting vertigo because the monitor was going back and forth so much. And it won't let me drive as hard as I could with this setup. Now, put it in front of that monitor, it was fine. Nothing's falling apart on it. We do get some flex, but it doesn't stop me from driving as hard as I could.
Absolutely.
But with that monitor there, it would stop me like Sean the Saw. Forget it, man. That monitor is going to be launched into space. We don't have it attached good enough. So, and no offense to Viper, what we talked about, what we would have done is a dual hoop design that would have made it at the bottom of the chassis there, and that would have been awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's going to wrap up the first half and everything about this rig. I think we've gone pretty in depth on it. And when we come back, we're going to give you pros, cons, rev scale, and final thoughts.
Tamiya's extensive lineup of radio-controlled vehicles provides hobbyists with the joy of running exact replicas of their favorite car, tank, or off-road vehicle. Another attraction of these vehicles is their use of high-grade materials, such as nylon resin, carbon fiber, and polycarbonate. With precise mechanical systems, the maintenance and adjustment of the various components, as well as performance upgrading with optional parts, allows for truly competitive racing. For more information about Tamiya, visit us at www.tamiyausa.com.
Welcome back to Inside Sim Racing. Darren Ganji here with Sean Cole. And before we get to the pros, cons, and rev scale, we didn't mention the price in the first half of the show, so you might want to know that. $319 for the chassis, $59 for the monitor stand, and then, as we mentioned, $45 shipped in the US. So a little over $400. You could have this rig with the monitor stand. So we went over some of the pros and cons of this rig already. So we're just going to recap them here, rev scale it, and then get to our final thoughts. And starting with the pros, Sean.
All right. Well, the first one is that it is an all-in-one unit. So you've got the chassis, the speakers, the shakers, all together. You don't have to do anything. And it's actually it's a good-looking setup too. So it's well designed with all that stuff.
Yeah, second pro is that it's cool looking. It's got a nice finish, so it looks racy, and I said it kind of lives up to the Viper name. And the next pro is that it's affordable, right around $300 you can get the base rig, so not too bad.
Not too bad at all. So the final two pros are actually that it is pre-drilled for a Logitech setup, and that makes it really easy and really nice. And the other one is you do have an option for the monitor stand. So now let's move on to the cons. And the first one being that it is, even though it's made for a Logitech, it has no shifter mount, which, I don't know. It seems like that's sort of a basic of working with a Logitech setup. Okay, another one of the cons would be that it actually is only for a Logitech wheel, so we had really no good luck with anything else. Another con would be that there is some wobble at the wheel deck, and there's also wobble or flex at the pedal plate, and in addition to that, that center flex that I mentioned.
Yep. And which leads us to the next con. It's too short and needs the extenders, which were definitely, these extenders were an afterthought. The wheel deck isn't adjustable except for up and down, and honestly, we really couldn't move it from right there. So, and the pedal deck can't move at all. So pedals are pretty much right where they're sitting.
And the last con we already mentioned also, and that the seat is actually pretty hard and it's non-adjustable. So you're fixed at that angle and it's comfortable but hard.
Yes, it is. Like I said, it's not as hard as you think, so maybe there is some memory in that phone. So that's going to take us to the rev scale. And, you know, when we first got this thing out and started driving with it, we thought a 6. And then we got some time with it and drove it. And it's a 6 with that monitor attached, I would say. Get rid of the monitor mount and just use it like at our setup over here, and that takes it to a 7 on the rev scale.
And a lot of that for me was the sound system being included, everything integrated. When I look at the price, I mean, that kind of, the whole thing just really brought it up to that 7 despite its flaws.
Which is taking us to our final thoughts. We're pretty much there right now. And yeah, this sound system is a lot better than we expected. I mean, this thing cranks.
Yeah.
You know, the sound system on this thing is seriously healthy. And we were able to run with both of them in the room. And this one wasn't that interrupted. So the sound system definitely put it into that 7 range for sure.
Yeah. For me, when I look at this, the 7 is a very fair score. Would this be my rig of choice? No, it definitely wouldn't be. However, if I had a child that I wanted to get into sim racing, if I needed a second rig just to do some PlayStation driving, I'd very much consider this rig.
Or even just some console, just some general console playing. They said that this is for gaming too, so take off the front section or just take off the center post.
Yeah.
And just make it a laid out rig and be kind of cool for a little sound system and stuff. Now, some of the changes they're going to make. They say they're going to add more cushion. They're going to make some adjustability refinements. They're going to lengthen the rig. And they're going to get rid of the knobs. The knobs are just not good for adjustability. I'd say that should have been on the cons list.
Yeah.
You know what? We forgot to add that to the cons list. Chuck another one up here. Put cons down there for us. Knobs. Those knobs are weak. They don't offer any stable connection point. Or
it's hard to tighten them enough.
Yeah, it's just a poor design, but they're fixing that too. They're adding like a pin or something.
Yeah.
So that should add to the rig. You know, they make all these changes, but you know that gets this rig into the 8 or 9 range.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing for me is that this is really a good starting point rig
for these guys. For Viper, I mean, this is their first rig, so hey.
Yeah.
Play seat, all these guys. Our seat is the Evo sitting behind us. That's their 3rd iteration.
Yeah.
Game Pod. I mean, every rig pretty much goes through, you know, as long as they're around for a while, it goes through evolution.
Yeah, definitely.
The Evo. So that's going to wrap it up for the review of the Viper Technology 600 SR, which I believe stands for SimRig.
Ah, okay.
For my good buddy Sean Cole, I'm Darren Ganji. We'll see you guys next time.